All right, folks. John Kelly, welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach. Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast, sitting down with Rob Poynter. I said that right, Poynter, right?
Correct.
It's not
Poynter.
as hard. It's not as hard to say as psilocybin with the P in front of it because that's a sneaky little word. All right,
Right.
psilocybin, right? So,
Yeah.
hey, what did John just say, man? Listen, Rob reached out, retired deputy sheriff over on the West Coast there, Alameda County Sheriff's Office. He had that run, man, like we all did, right? Um, did some time in the jail, airport, patrol, went out, did some community policing back in the day, special units. Last but not least, man, he was on a motor. So he's near and dear to my heart, man, fellow motorman. And like all of us, man, at times we struggle and sometimes things don't go the way we want them to. And found himself stuck. And we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future, and what he did, right? The proactive steps that he took to get right. And so, and the focus of this conversation is going to be on plant-based medicines, something that I really don't know anything about. And Rob is going to kind of walk us through his journey, and we're going to put some resources out there during and at the end so you can do your own due diligence and find out if this is a modality that might help you navigate some situations you find yourself in. Fair enough?
Perfect.
Rob, nice to see you again, man.
Great to see you and great to be here and grateful to be here.
Yeah, man. Right. For many different reasons, bro.
Yeah.
You we had this conversation the other day and it was just like I got so excited. Listen, you can imagine that throughout the course of the day of the week, I come across a lot of people that should be thriving but aren't. Right. And
Yeah.
so like you reached out, hey, I had this experience and I want to, I want to talk to you about it. And I'm like, yeah, man. Like you can be your own wellness advocate. You can
Right.
you can you can do research and you can find out things and you don't have to wait. Nobody's coming
Right.
to save you,
No, exactly.
right? I
Yeah,
mean, how
exactly.
long are you going to wait? How long
Right.
are you going to wait
Right.
for somebody to come and unfuck you?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I love the fact that you were like, I don't like the way I am right now, man, and I
Yeah.
need to do something different.
Right.
Um, and so just for the listener, man, give us the Reader's Digest version of of you and how you got to this point, and then I want to go all in on plant-based medicine. What is it? What is it not?
Okay.
Benefits, risks, and resources, bro.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Um, Again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
I think that before I get going on that, I think it's important. One of the reasons why I want to do this, because if you look at me, look like a square dude like everybody else. Not the type of person that is going to be doing psilocybin, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing these things is because I want people to like just go, oh, okay, that guy's
Yeah, you're
like
not you're
me.
not some fucking hippie who's looking to drop
Right,
mescaline just because.
right. I'm not. Yeah, exactly. So
Very
my
conservative, very conservative.
Yes, yes, yes.
All
Very
right, bro.
conservative,
Yeah.
extremely conservative.
All right.
So backstory, I'll just do law enforcement. You hit pretty much everything on the head. Had a great time. November 14th, 2018. Um, Ralbin, riding home, rolling around looking bad. Um, Hit a fresh green light. Street had some sort of oil or antifreeze on it. Slid, high sided, ripped my thumb, shoulder, bicep, tons of surgeries. During the process of recovery, I was by myself in my man cave, just sitting there and just doing a lot of thinking and
Right.
doing a lot of thinking about how I had treated my family, how I had treated a lot of people in general, and I didn't like what I was seeing because deep down I knew I was better than that,
Right.
and I
Can I
was trying
stop
to.
you? Can I
Yeah,
stop you?
yeah,
Bro, so you're go, go, go the whole time.
right,
Extremely active,
right,
like workout maniac.
right,
And this injury sideline, it forces you to slam on the brakes.
right,
And I just want to point out, man, it's just like retirement.
right,
It's an event
yeah,
that takes you out of the thing that occupies your mind
right,
24/7. So now
right,
you don't have that going on. You got
right,
time to think.
right. And a little different from retirement in that, like, usually with retirement, you're leading up to it. Everybody, you're still kind
Yeah.
of
Oh,
talking to people.
unexpected, man.
This one was like the rug pulled out from underneath
Yeah.
you. And so, like, out of sight, out of mind. No one really, I mean, you get a call, from the captain, but basically he says he's checking on you, but he just really wants to know when you're coming back, right? So you're just kind of like,
Hey,
right,
how you been? How you doing? All right.
right,
Yeah.
right,
What's the recovery? What's your
right. Yeah,
PT
let's cut
doctor say?
cut
Yeah.
cut the bullshit. Well, let's get to the chase. So I'm going through that, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to figure out something to do to get better. And so it started me on this journey. I couldn't really exercise at that point because I had my right thumb in a cast. I
Yeah.
had surgery on my shoulder, so
Torn
all I could really,
biceps and yeah.
pardon,
Torn biceps and everything.
yeah.
Yeah, you're a mess, bro.
So I could, and both my knees were screwed up too. So I could get on the bike and just pedal the bike, like stationary bike,
Sure.
because that had always exercise was always the outlet. And I had thought, okay, when I first got into law enforcement, that was going to be a big piece of my mental health component.
Did you own a gym or
And I
like
I did own a
yeah,
gym. Yeah,
you were all in, bro. You were all
I was
in.
in the health and fitness business
Yeah.
prior,
Okay.
and then I owned a gym, and that's how I met someone that got me into law enforcement.
I got you.
So, and then, I mean, prior to that, though, backstory is I grew up in a law enforcement family. My dad was a deputy. Um, and I'll just briefly go into that. I didn't go into law enforcement as a 20-year-old because I was concerned with how he handled the pressure, which was old school alcohol,
Yeah, man.
right? So that was a big concern of mine, and that's why I waited, till I was 30, basically, to go into law enforcement
Right.
because I didn't want to go down that path because I saw what
Sure.
that path was, and it wasn't pretty.
Right.
So sitting there, just thinking about things, thinking about the things that used to just piss me off, and then thinking, why did that piss me off? And then just starting to kind of develop, like, what am I going to do to get my mind right? And it started off with, yoga, and then it, kind of it went to meditation, and then it was always exercise, and then it was journaling, and then it was reading books, like, just all kinds of self-help books, just trying to figure this out because I had been married to my wife at that time about now 16 years, 15 years. I love her dearly. She's a wonderful person. Has stood by me through all the whims of my life, which has been, we own a gym, and then all of a sudden I come home and like, hey, I talked to the undersheriff's wife. I'm going to go into law enforcement, and she's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Yeah,
Just,
that's nice. That's a
well,
great
yeah. So she's
conversation to have.
always been super, always been very supportive of me,
Yeah.
and I wanted to spend the rest of our life happy.
Yeah.
And I had not been nice to her, nor had I been nice to my son, who's now 20. And so I wanted to make myself the best that I could be, to be the best husband, to be the best father.
Right.
So I'm going down this path.
You're checking all the resiliency
Right,
boxes, bro. You've
right,
got the yoga, the
right,
meditation,
yeah,
you've got self-help books coming out of your ears.
right.
Um,
All of it.
did you read Surviving Self-Inflicted Wounds, A Deputy's Life of Survival by Sergeant John Kelly? See,
Not yet.
no, see, that's the
That would have put
problem, bro. That would
that
have
would
been
have
the
put me
one.
over the top. I
would
wouldn't
have
have had to
saved
do
you.
this.
Would have saved you
All
a lot
right.
of aggravation. But go ahead. Go ahead.
I love it.
Oh
Um,
shit.
so uh, I started seeing stuff about plant medicine, and I saw it on different podcasts, and I saw that the military was utilizing it, and just started researching it, and I thought, wow, that looks like something that I could use. That's another tool here that I
What
could
were some
use.
of the symptoms, Rob, that you were experiencing that brought you to the traditional list of wellness,
Yeah,
resiliency, um, actionable steps that we would take
yeah. Uh,
that wasn't fixing?
Anger, extreme anxiety. Like, and I didn't realize how bad I had anxiety until I did this retreat too.
Okay.
Like, incredible anxiety. Um, just insomnia. I mean, I couldn't sleep. Um, all of these things were just compounding on each other too. Like,
And that's the thing,
obviously,
man. If you're not sleeping, your
yeah,
brain's not repairing itself.
right, exactly,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. It's just
yeah.
yeah, and I knew that from
Right.
doing all, and but I still there was nothing
Hmm.
I could do, which was leading me to become more frustrated because in my mind I'm like I'm doing all of these things, but it's not working, and it just was. I was like I
I
need
got
to
to
do so.
imagine, man. Then you start going, well, what the fuck's wrong with me?
Right,
I'm doing everything that everybody is telling me is going to
right,
give me some calmness and some
right,
peace,
right,
and it's
exactly.
not.
And I'm extremely disciplined. And so I do everything. Like I'm going to do it all. Like I'll take, 4 hours every single morning and I'm going to do my morning routine
Right.
to, almost to a degree of where my wife's like, hey, I want to go to breakfast. Can we? And I'm like, no, I've got, so that causes tension because I'm so rigid. So it was just becoming unbearable. And I, so start researching,
Yeah.
find only things for really for veterans. And so I wasn't seeing anything for civilians. And so I'm like, a little frustrated. I
Right.
found this group called the S.I.R.E.N Project, who at that time I thought it was only firefighters.
Right.
It was founded by a firefighter who had all the same symptoms, everything that I was saying she had. And so that's why she initially went and did a retreat. And she was able to actually do it, I believe, through Vets, which is another organization.
Okay.
So she goes down, she does it. She's, oh my gosh, this
This
is
is the
life changing.
founder. This is the founder of the
Yeah.
Siren Project. Yeah.
Angela, yeah.
Firefighter.
Super, phenomenal person.
Yeah.
Phenomenal person. So
Nice.
she goes and does it. And I'm not going to really speak for her, but I'm just going to kind of give you an overview.
Right. Well, you know what
She
I might do, Rob? I might have, if she's willing, I might have her on.
Okay, I
Yeah,
can talk to her.
that would be
Absolutely.
something, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
go, but continue, brother, man.
So she goes down, has such a profound experience, and she tells the facilitator, "Hey, I'm gonna found a nonprofit group, and I'm gonna set it up for first responders, and I want you to be the leader." Who her name is Dr. Andrea Lucy, of this,
Right.
and the doctor's like, "Okay, yeah, sure," you
Yeah. How
know,
many times has she,
right?
right, heard that somebody's,
Yeah, yeah. So within the next year, she is able to do it. She's able
wow,
to found this nonprofit. She's able to get the funding because not only does she do this whole thing, but she does it so that there's no money out of your pocket to do the retreat other than to fly down there.
right.
But to pay for the retreat, the S.I.R.E.N Project has actually established enough funds to pay for people to go,
That's
which
amazing.
which blew me away too. I was like, wow,
Right.
okay.
That's something.
Yeah. So I contact her because I had a buddy that's a firefighter going through it, retiring, medical, having issues. I thought this would be perfect for him. Um, he decided he didn't want to do it. So then I contacted Angela again and just said, "Hey, is this for just firefighters or is it for first responders?" She says, "No, it's for first responders,
Right.
firefighters, law enforcement, EMS, their wives, their children."
Mm.
And so I was like, well, "Sign me up, I'm down," you know. So I
Yeah.
put in an application immediately, and she said, "It's, we're filled up, until this was last year, say June,
Okay.
May, June." So we're filled up, we'll probably be able to get you in 2025. I said, okay, yeah, whatever. I want to go.
Yeah.
So she says, okay. And so but then every couple of weeks, I just call her and just say, hey, is anybody dropping out?
Right.
I, really want to go. And by August, I'd bugged her enough to where she said, hey, she called me and she said, someone dropped out for our September group. Do you want to go? And I was like, absolutely.
Right.
I'm in.
Right.
So
That's perfect, man.
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it's awesome. So once you kind of make that commitment, something changes. Something changed within me, and they say that the medicine's already starting to work.
Hmm.
Okay. So they send you you've got the integration and the preparation workbook. So they send
Yeah.
you that and they say, okay, we want you to start reading through this. They do a medical workup on you. You have phone
Right.
calls with the doctor, just kind of making sure that you're uh, good to go, right?
Yep.
Um, because there are some things that I don't know all the psychological situations where they don't want you to go. If you're schizophrenic, if you're really having some hardcore issues, the psilocybin might not work for you.
Sure.
So they want to make sure that you're good to go. So
And,
you've
and
got to
can I
be,
interrupt you?
yeah, go for it.
So I'm sure there's some people that know exactly what we're talking about, but
Yeah,
psilocybin, it's a psychedelic compound found in over 200 species of fungi, basically
right,
mushrooms,
right,
right?
right. Mushrooms.
It's and it's and it's a therapy that is sometimes um, combined with or utilized with MDMA. There's a whole like
Yeah, there's a whole
umbrella
realm.
of
Yes.
of these, and so the potential the potential benefits of going through this are, I mean, with all these things that you were utilizing, all these techniques, all these um none of them are working because the issue is the neural pathways
Right.
in your brain,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
unless those are getting rerouted,
Right.
reprogrammed,
Right.
you can meditate, you can ground, you can do yoga, you can do listening
Whatever.
to calm use, you can do all these things, but
Right.
if the wiring is faulty, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term,
Right.
it doesn't really matter. And
Yeah.
I just, not that I don't want anybody to think that I'm smart. I pulled some research, and I think this will probably, in a nutshell, sum up what it is that the psilocybin does. They
Okay.
say they still have a lot to learn
Yeah.
um, about the effects of the mushrooms and brain function, but they've identified two active ingredients, right? The psilocybin and psilocin, and they activate the serotonin receptors in the brain.
Right.
And serotonin is the chemical that the brain affects mood and perception. So it's actually addressing the receptors, the serotonin, and the chemical that the brain produces,
Right.
and it plays into your mood,
Right.
anxiety,
Right.
and your perception, the things that you are perceiving to cause anxiety.
Right. Right.
It's just, so I wanted to kind of just throw that out there because
Yeah.
we're talking. You know what the hell you're talking about. I know very little about what you're talking about, and
Right.
so that's what we're talking about today. So you get this preparation, navigation, and integration workbook from the S.I.R.E.N project. You sent one to me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy smokes, man. It
Yeah.
is just, it's letting you know that there's no magic pill.
Right. Exactly.
You've got to do the work,
Do the
man.
work. Do the
You've got to
work.
do the work. So
Right.
you get this, an opening opens up in September,
Yeah.
and they send you off this workbook.
Yeah.
And talk to me, man. So you got to be super excited at this point.
Oh, oh my gosh. I was so stoked. I was, my when she called me, I was walking the dog on the trail. And I, came home, told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm going, to Mexico
Yeah,
in basically 6 weeks. And she's like, oh, okay. And
right.
so she's super supportive. Like
Sure. Well, that's part of it too, right?
right.
You need a supportive environment, man.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
awesome, man.
Exactly. And so, yeah, so very stoked. When you are a part of the retreat, you start doing phone calls because you're going to be down there with a group of people. So there was six of us, four firefighters, an EMS guy, and me,
Okay.
right? So you're part of this group, and so we were tribe number six. So five other we call they're tribes. Five other tribes have gone before us, and so you're on the phone, and you're meeting everybody, and I mean, it's you're kind of nervous, and we
Sure.
don't know anybody, and you're getting to know Andrea, and you're getting to know the other facilitators that are going to be down there. So we do about two or three of those calls, say once every week and a half. There's a coach, you're assigned a coach. So that's just
Okay.
a one-on-one coach who's prepping you, and then he's checking you. Hey, are you doing this? Right? Or do I have questions? What am I supposed to do with integration? What does integration mean? So the coach is able to explain that stuff to you,
Gotcha.
which
Yeah.
is
So
great.
you're not just left. You're not given a handbook and said, "Hey, read it and then show up."
Right.
There's a lot of
Exactly.
there's a lot of educating that needs to be done on your part
Absolutely.
for this experience
Yeah,
to be successful,
exactly.
or to
And
give it the highest likelihood of being successful.
right. So the highest likelihood of being successful on something like this is to have the right mindset, right? And the
Okay.
right setting. So set and setting, you usually hear set and setting, and what that is mindset
Mm-hmm.
and setting where you're going to be, right?
Right.
So this doesn't work really good if you just willy-nilly, I'm going to take a bunch of mushrooms and, hang
Yeah,
out in my bedroom.
that's not what we're talking about. Right.
No.
This is it is an operation, a
Right.
mission. It's
Right.
a all the planning that we do for this is not something that's just being done
No.
haphazardly, man.
It is a well-oiled,
Intentional.
right. Very so, and again, background on Dr. Lucy, worked with the Marines for 20 years, worked for DoD during the same time, so she knows what she's doing, and she is actually originally from Peru, um, and she just got to a point up here where she was like, I want to do this the right way. I want to do this the ceremonial way. I want to do this the tribal way. I want to do this how they've been doing it for 7,000 years. So she goes down to Mexico and she puts together a group to do this. And so um, once you start looking into this, John, you start looking into different people. She is world class. Like in this realm, she's one of the best.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I didn't know that before this,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
But now I do know that. So
Wow.
she's facilitating everything. She's giving you your coach. She's leading the phone calls, checking in with you. You know what I mean? Like because you know some of the people are coming off of SSRIs, right? Because you can't be on SSRIs when you're doing this. Some of the people are coming
Dude,
off.
I'm sorry. SSRIs, help me out. I suck with acronyms.
Oh, like Prozac and all
Oh,
those
okay.
things.
Other
Yeah.
uh
Uh,
chemicals and drugs that affect.
yeah.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. So,
Understood.
yeah, you have to be off of all that. You have to be off of alcohol. You have to be off of any drugs, any
Right.
opiates.
I was reading the guidelines too, and they would say like you need to clean your diet up too, like
Right.
all the things that all the sugars, the things that
Right.
inflame.
Yes.
You know, start dialing your body in for this experience
Right.
because you need to be in if you want the best experience,
Yep.
got to be free from all those other toxins.
Yeah, your vessel needs to be clean, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
you have to have that thing cleaned out. And so for me, I love that shit. Like
Right.
I had been off
Yeah,
sugar.
that's
I
like telling you. I mean, you're already living that life, probably.
right. So I'm like, right on, cool. That's not going to be an issue, right? So I mean, getting off caffeine was a little, nothing really crazy, but that was the hardest thing. But like I was doing edibles every single day. I was drinking a few beers a day. Um, Nothing crazy. That stuff was not hard. But you're prepping for it. And honestly, you are the medicine is starting to work. It's hard to explain, but it's starting to
Well,
work
it's
already.
because you're doing the things that you should be doing for your body and mind,
Right.
which
Right.
is getting all that shit out of it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
man.
you're also, they want you to take care of any tasks, anything that you have hanging over your head. They want you to get that stuff done so that when you get back from your retreat, you're not hung up on anything. Right.
Mm.
So for me, like cleaning my shed and organizing my shed, um, I was supposed to build something for my wife. I got that. I was knocking shit out, just boom,
Yeah,
boom. And
yeah,
so I was feeling good about that too. Right.
right.
And so,
They also talk about relationship, like having conversations
yes,
and getting those not issues resolved, but like not have to your point, not having something catastrophic waiting for you at home when you get
right,
done with this retreat.
right. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, my wife and I are communicating.
Right.
And I'll tell you, and we'll wrap around after retreat.
Yeah.
But, my wife, super supportive. Like, everything is focused on me at this point though, right? So everything is all about me, but I'm telling my wife, I'm telling my son, and my son's like, you're doing what? You know what I mean? Because my son is just, like, I'm not into drugs. I'm just
Right. It's
not
like,
that.
what the hell is going on
Right.
here?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been a deputy sheriff, and so
Right.
that was
Oh, it's getting people to wrap their head around something different.
right. So, and we, being in law enforcement, we look at, I've arrested a shitload of people for drugs, right? All the time, arresting people for drugs. And it's hard to make that kind of separation between plant medicine and drugs for us, right? And so, and I think that's with a lot of people too. They look at it like it's drugs, it's street drugs, but I mean, it's to me, it's it's medicine. Like it is
Right.
medicine now. So we're prepping and we're doing all that stuff, and so then you get to the point where I'm flying down to Mexico. I'm flying down to Puerto Vallarta. If I skip something, just cut me off, and if you have a question or
Yeah,
anything.
no, dude, stuff flies into my head all the time. I'm like, oh shit, I got to ask him right now or I'm going to forget. But
Okay.
yeah, man.
So fly down to Puerto Vallarta. Um, you stay in a hotel the first night, and then I want a day early because I'm just like that. I was like,
Yeah,
I
of
want to go
course.
down there and kind of recon this thing a little bit and see where I'm
Sure.
going to be. And so I went down a day early, hung out in Puerto Vallarta a little bit, and then the first night you meet everybody, it's like a dinner. We go to
They
dinner.
come to your room, throw a bag over your head, you get stuffed in a van and brought into the middle of the jungle.
Exactly.
That what you told
And
me? Is
they
that what
bury you.
happens?
Yeah, you get
Yes.
buried into a hole.
Yeah. No, I'm just messing
Just my
around.
head was out.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
so we meet everybody.
Yep.
And again, everybody's kind of like, you're nervous. You don't know
Sure.
anybody, and we're gonna be down here doing these psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
So we meet Andrea, we meet a couple of the other facilitators, and one of the facilitators is, I mean, a freaking badass SEAL Team 6 guy. I mean, like legit was there,
Right.
that dude.
Yeah.
His backstory, and I'm not going to say his name, but his
Please don't.
backstory
Yeah. Please don't.
is that tons of deployments. I mean, tons of deployments. Um, Ended up 13 TBIs, shot twice, just a stud. So he eventually medically retires, and he goes into, some sort of business consulting stuff,
Right.
but he starts having issues, and to the point where he can't leave his apartment, right? He's just a mess. A couple of his buddies had done the psilocybin treatment
Right.
through vets, and he talks to them and just says, hey, I need to do something. This is not working. my
Right.
my life is not working. So he does it, and this guy now is he's gone back to school, got his master's
So
degree, he's
he's
a
one of the
therapist.
facilitators now.
Yeah, well, this is one of the
Yeah.
facilitators.
Wow.
And he does it, like probably once a year. He goes down and just kind of
Right.
does it. He's done other things too, but man, so when you see someone like that do this, like this dude is the dude. You want,
Right.
like, in the dark alley, you
That
want
had to
him with
be
you.
not only reassuring, but very confirming for you,
Oh,
right?
yeah, just a stud. I mean,
Yeah.
just a badass. So meet him, cool dude. Um, have dinner. We all eat, have dinner. Next morning, we all meet downstairs in the lobby, pick us up in a van, and we go to this, I mean, beautiful mansion, right on the water, in Puerto Vallarta, killer swimming pool. Um, you share a room with someone else. So I had a room with a firefighter. And then you basically, the first day, you're just kind of getting to know each other, getting to know everybody. We do some group sessions. No, we're not doing any of the psilocybin yet.
Right.
We're doing some things to help us with the integration. So when we're coming home, we're doing, you know, um, we're doing some different types of yoga. We're doing some just drawing extra. I mean, just simple stuff. First evening, we meet the medicine man, and this guy is amazing. He lives down there, and he's a straight up medicine man.
Like a
He,
shaman, medicine
yeah,
man kind
yeah,
of guy.
he does a blessing with tobacco for all of us. And it's not like he's pulling off a dart from a like a marble or something. He's doing
Yeah.
the legit
The
tobacco
way it's been done for
for
years.
years, right?
Right.
And so the first evening, it's kind of you're stair stepping into this thing. So he brings another really fine tobacco that I can't remember the name of that. I think it's called rapé. I think it's rapé,
Okay.
but he blows it up our nostrils. Right? He's got this special tube,
Yeah.
and he kind of explains why he's cleansing our body, and this is what we're gonna do. But we've got these throw up buckets in front of each of us, right?
Yeah, I've heard about this. Yeah,
So,
it's wicked fun.
well,
Oh,
it's like it's an adventure too, right? So it's kind of like,
yeah, man.
and so and part of this thing for me was that I wanted to step out of my kind of lone wolf mentality,
Yeah.
and I knew it was going to be like firefighters are very communal, right? They
Right.
live together, they eat together.
Sure.
I knew those guys were going to just bond, right? And so I was like, I need to step up my game here. I'm going to volunteer first for everything. I'm going to like really, that was one of my intentions coming down there. And so I was like, I'll go
Yeah.
first for the the raw
Yeah.
pay. So he just, he does a blast up both nostrils, and man, it just you've chewed tobacco.
I used to shoot Fred Stoker's and Sons, big
Okay.
leafy,
Yeah. So
Dresden,
back, like remember the
Tennessee.
the
Yeah.
first when you first
Oh,
start
yeah.
doing it, you get a buzz, right?
Right.
This was like 10 times that buzz, right?
Right.
And it's just burning, and you can't spit it out. You can't like you got to just hold it. So you're like, "Oh." Like you
Yeah.
can't like make a big deal about it.
Right.
So we did that. Everybody does it. Um, and then he puts this, and then he says, the next thing we're going to do is another plant medicine that's going to go in your eyes. And so it's going to burn, but you have to do it because it's going to help you see things. And so I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I lay back, and he does it, and it burns. It burns like you wouldn't believe. And again, you can't be like, it's
No, you just
burning. You got to
suck
take
it
it.
up. Yeah, man.
Right. Take it. Embrace the suck. So, but when you're doing those things, it really was showing, number one, that they care about you. Like the way that they were handling each one of us, you
Right.
know, they care about you. It was a really
Building
good,
some building some trust.
right. Exactly. And it was a really good stair step into, because we don't know them, right?
No.
We know what they say is going to happen. We know,
Mm.
um, you know, what might happen, but we don't really know how they're going to treat us, right?
Right.
And they did a great job. And the medicine man, Oscar, was super knowledgeable about all kinds of stuff, and he would go through why we're doing each thing. Um, very very cool. So first night we do that. It's a good little stair step.
Yeah.
They tell us that we're gonna fast in the morning tomorrow, and then we're gonna do our psilocybin, right?
Okay.
Our mushrooms. Um, there some things are going to pop into my head too. So during this time, we're also kind of we did like an opening ceremony kind of thing. We
Uh-huh.
have some dancers that are there, and it's very, very old school, for lack of it. I mean, but really old school, really tribal old
Right.
school.
Okay.
And they're doing it, and it's beautiful. And they're playing music. It's really cool. So the next morning, we're fasting,
Yeah.
and we come outside. They call us outside, and we do a even bigger ceremony. Um, and we do another blessing of each of us, and then we do a rose petal bath ceremony. So each one of us, they put you into a chair. They have a bucket of rose petals and water poured over. That's part of the whole traditional thing, and you're not supposed to like wipe the petals off of you.
Right.
And then you go back, and each person goes through that. And then there was a covered patio at this mansion, and so there was 6 or 7 beds all leaned up underneath that covered patio. Medicine man brings us back to the covered patio, and each one of us had brought something that meant something very important to us,
Hmm.
and that was for when you're in the psilocybin journey. If you start losing it, you can get up and you can kind of look at this, whatever it is. And for me, it was a picture of my son and my wife,
Hmm.
to kind of get you back a little bit, right?
Gotcha.
So we all put our stuff up, and um, he kind of explains how it's going to work. So the dosages um, were you have kind of these different levels of dosages. So I I
Is it
had
like
done
based
much
on is it like based on your weight or
based on weight, based on experience,
okay. Okay.
that type of thing. And so like I had done mushrooms a couple times as a very young man, right?
Hmm.
Like 18, 19 years old, fucking around with my buddies. Done like an eighth of mushrooms, which is about 2.5 grams. So the medicine man, he tells us we're going to be doing a hero's dosage, which is basically 5 grams and up, right?
Okay.
So it's not, we're not fucking around here.
Right.
Um, so he mixes each one for, each person,
And what is
right?
it, like a tea?
What he did, yeah, it's a powder, and he did it in orange juice.
Okay.
So
Okay.
different people do it different ways. Some people do
Right.
a tea, and then some people they will just some ceremonies they'll just bust out a mushroom, and you got to do it the real old school way and just
Okay.
eat a
Okay.
mushroom. So there's different ways to do it. So
Understood.
his yeah, so what he did was he mixed each one of our dosages, and he brought it to us, blessed us, and again we're all sitting in front of our bed basically,
Yeah.
and basically we do another ceremony, and then he tells us to drink our mushrooms,
Right.
um, pound them, come back around a little orange juice to finish up if there's any residue, pound them, put your eye shades down, lay back on the bed, um, and then you start going.
Huh.
And do you want me to like go into my journey?
You can share as much or as little as you want,
Uh,
man.
I'm
Um, that's
I'm
your,
open to share
that's
it.
your journey, man. So
No,
whatever
and,
you,
and I'm open. I want to really be an open book here, and
yeah,
I'll tell you everything that I can remember. I'll tell you. So with that workbook, you're going through all these intentions of what you want to happen, right? And
right,
you're going through that, you're reading it, you're writing it, because you don't want to go down there with an expectation. Because if you
right.
go down there with an expectation, your likelihood of not meeting that expectation is probably pretty high, which ends up
How could
being
you have an expectation if you don't? I mean, right?
right.
I mean, you're
Well,
going to set yourself up for failure.
but people, that's how people are. They're like, I
Right,
want
right.
this to happen,
Yeah.
right? So several of my intentions, I'll tell you what my intentions were. I wanted to talk to my grandma and grandpa. I
Okay.
really wanted to talk to them. Um, I didn't quite know exactly in what way, but I wanted to communicate with them. I wanted to talk to my dad who passed away in 2009. I wanted to talk to my wife too. I wanted to communicate with my wife. I wanted to communicate with my son. And the overall, big intention was for my whole thing was to be the best person I could be, right?
Yeah.
And so boom, shades down, and then I'm out, about 30 minutes into it, start seeing
Now,
some lights.
do you when you put your little the eye shades on and you lay back, do you fall asleep? Do you
No,
you're just you're conscious?
I'm conscious. Yeah, I'm conscious. I can feel like your muscles are twitching a little bit. That's when you
Is
know
that,
it start.
are they asking you like to focus on your breath at this point or
No,
anything? Or
what's happening now, which is super cool too, is they're playing music.
okay,
They're singing and playing music, and they
okay,
are steering this thing like you wouldn't believe.
okay.
So sometimes it's a male singing, sometimes it's a female singing a sad song, like
Hmm.
crazy.
All right, I got you.
And
Okay.
also, what's happening is we're in this storm, major storm, right? So we're outside, we're covered, but the rain is pounding on the top of the roof. So
Okay.
it was super intense,
Yeah, it
super
sounds
intense.
like it.
So about 30 minutes in, seeing some lights, going, well, okay, that's cool. Um, and then all of a sudden, I'm literally communicating with my grandpa. And I'm saying and it's, it, people are going to look at this and go, God, that's whatever. That's not fucking true. I know what I saw. I know what I did. And I know
Right.
how I felt. And I'd say, first I said, hey, grandpa, you're probably not approving of me doing this.
Right.
But if I wasn't able to do this, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be able to communicate with you and grandma.
Right.
And so hopefully you can. And what I was able to do was I was able to communicate with him how much I appreciated both him and my grandma
Mm.
and the life that they lived, because that's really the life that I've kind of modeled my life after. And it was really cool to be able to do that, to be able to share that with him, because I never did that when I was a young man, right? I
Right.
never, just didn't do it. And then I was able to tell my grandma how much I loved her and how
Right.
much she meant to me. I was with my grandpa when my grandma died, and she was not in a position, she wasn't speaking. She wasn't, I
Right.
couldn't tell her how much I cared about her. So I was able to do that. And
Right.
it was a great release, a great feeling to be able to do that. And I will say that during this journey, I was crying.
Hmm.
I have
Very
never
emotional.
cried so. What's that?
Very emotional.
Very, yeah. I never cried so hard in my life. Like just
Huh.
purging, like just all the air out of your body,
Yeah.
purging. And so had my conversation and
Yeah.
communication with them. And then I went to my dad, and then my dad was like, backstory with my dad really quick is my mom split when I was 7. My dad raised me as a single dad, homicide detective, phenomenal human being, always there for me.
Right.
Um, and so when he came into this journey, he uh, he was like, "Hey, I was kind of pissed off when mom left, and she stayed friends with grandma and grandpa, and you were okay with it." And I was just like, "Oh shit, man! I was 7 years old. I didn't
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do." And I'm sorry. I'm
Right.
sorry you felt like that way. And I'm sorry that you were hurt. And now being a grown man, I can see
Right.
where that would hurt you. But I was just doing the best I could do. Right.
Right.
And so he was like, yeah, I get it.
Hmm.
I was doing the best I could do too. Um, so throughout this journey, all these little like sayings or whatever kept popping up, doing the best you can do, doing the best you can do. They're doing the best you can do. um, they they're very simple, right? And but before it was very surface, like thinking about that stuff. And when I was in this journey, I finally was like, oh shit, yeah, of course he's doing the best he can do. And even my mom who split, yeah, that was what she was capable of doing. She did the best she could do, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which gave me a sense of peace, a sense of just kind of like, oh, fuck, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. So my dad and I had our thing. And then this is like the next part of it is the only thing that came up with work, right? It's interesting because we think all this shit that we have with work is what's fucking us up, right?
Hmm.
And the next thing I'm going to talk about is the only thing that did. So once they decided, hey man, you're fucked up, you can't work anymore, right? You're
Because
you're
your
retired,
accident. Right.
right? You're retired. And I was like, okay. And they're like, okay, you got to bring your gun in to the regional training center. And I was like, okay, whatever. I've got other guns.
Right.
I don't need that one, right? I got guns. So I drive over, and everything's fine, right? I'm like, no big deal. And I go to get the gun out of the trunk, and even like telling you right now, it tears me up. So
Is this
I
a
go,
Rob? Is this in your vision during are you going
yes.
through this in
Well, no,
your
no, no, no. I'm telling you before my vision.
before
So
your
I'm
vision?
telling,
What
yeah,
was going on? I
right,
gotcha.
in my life,
In your
right.
life. Yep.
So, and then I'll come back to what
Yeah.
happens. So, go to the RTC, grab it out of the trunk, and I'm like, and then I start tearing it. Like right in the RTC, I got all kinds of agencies walking
Sure.
around because we do training there.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and a guy that I know from a different agency comes up, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I was
Right.
like, I'm like, I got to turn my gun in, and
Yeah.
he was super cool. And so I was like, I've always tried to figure out why that affected me so much. And what I've come down to at that point was that that gun was the difference between like me pulling someone over on East 14th and 165th, 2 in the morning. It's four deep, and that gun, and my cover wasn't there yet, and it was going to be a minute, was going to be the thing that kept me to go home,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so now I was giving it up. So I thought I'd put that. in the past, and like I eventually, got my shit together, turned it in, and so I hadn't thought about that in several years. So in the freaking journey, that came up, and I was like, oh shit, man. And I the weirdest thing happened is that I ended up in the journey having a funeral for this gun. And it was it
That's
was so
crazy, right?
bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Of
so
course.
bizarre. But it was kind of like, my interpretation of that part of it was I'm putting it to rest. I'm like it's over. Like my essentially my career now, my identity, that part of my life is over. And so that was a funeral. And it, again, tons of tears,
Right.
um, all that stuff. And throughout another thing throughout the journey is one thing they say to prep you for this is you have to lean into hard shit, right? You've got to
Right.
fucking, if you see something, you've got to go towards it. So throughout the journey, off in the distance, I would see this like black, devilish looking figure, right? And so in my, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is where I have to go face this hard shit, right?
Right.
Lean into it. Every single time I would go towards this thing, whatever it was, because sometimes it was this black thing, and sometimes it was just looked like the devil, like what you would think of the devil would look like.
Right.
Every time I'd go towards it, and the whole thing would turn into something good. It would turn into me talking to my dad or me talking to my wife, or it was really bizarre. In that, I was my interpretation of that part of it was that you got to lean into hard shit because most of the time when you lean into it, it's not nearly as bad as what you think it's going to be. And so that
Right.
was kind of like it was so bizarre because every time it would turn into something good.
Huh.
So then had my funeral for the old Sig.
Yeah.
Then I communicated with my wife, and we had this communication to where I just felt that we were talking, and that I was just telling her, hey, we're gonna be together forever. We don't have to worry about anything. Everything's gonna be okay. And I'm not just talking about, and this is gonna sound kind of woo woo or whatever. I'm not just talking about this life. I'm talking about we're gonna be together forever.
Right.
And it was such a feeling of bliss, of just I can't even explain
Well,
how good
kind
it
of like
felt.
reassuring.
Yeah, yeah. And because there was a lot of stuff going on with her and I, because I knew she was very, very nervous about me being down there, the
Sure.
unknown, um, all of that stuff. And I wanted to be able to send her something that, it's okay. We're going to be okay.
Mm.
And I felt like I was able to do that. And then the next part um, was talking with my son, my my now 20-year-old son, and just apologizing for the way that I had treated him, the how rigid I had been with him, and how disciplined I'd been with him, um, and that again I was doing the best I could do, right, and
Mm.
then
That
from
keeps
this
coming back up.
right,
Yeah, man.
exactly, and from this point forward, things will change. And he said, you know what? I was just doing the best I could do too. And then we both came to the conclusion that, our relationship is just going to continue to take work.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, of course.
Right.
And we're both workers. And so that's okay. And so it was that was very nice and very and it was cool because I was able to, after I was done with the journey and the retreat, I was able to come home and talk to him about
Mm.
all this stuff. And we talked about all that. And so that was really cool, real, real, real nice. The next part was this another one. This is going to sound really like out there too, but I had a dog. Uh, I probably got him when I was about 20. His name was Job, and he was a Rottweiler. And when I was young, I was traveling a lot in the health and fitness business. They were moving me to, another city. They moved me to Houston. They moved me back to California. So this dog was with me all over the place. And it wasn't the proper setting for a dog, right? A dog doesn't
Gotcha.
need to be moved but I was young
Right.
and I didn't know. And so when he was about 12, 11, 12, I'd bought a house. My wife, who was my girlfriend back then, was living with me. I was in the academy, and she called and she said, "Hey, Job's dying. I've got to take him." Like basically, his insides just blew up.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave the academy. I couldn't, go. I couldn't take care of him. I felt horrible, horrible. She had
Right.
to take care of it. In the journey, Job is there, and he's noble Rottweiler, and I'm like, dude, I am so sorry that I
Right.
was not able to take care of you, bud. And he's like, it's okay. I understand. It's okay. And it was so vivid. It was so like again, purging, crying, getting all of that out.
Yeah.
I had another dog who his name was Bubba, and he was a pit. Another phenomenal dog. My son had gotten into a little bit of trouble. He goes to school up north. He got in a little bit of trouble. I had to take off. Right? So it's like about an 18-hour drive for me.
Uh-huh.
I'd had to take off. Same thing. I'm sorry, Bubba goes down to we live in the mountains and kind of on a hill. And Bubba goes down to the bottom of our hill, down by the creek, and is dying. My
Mm.
wife calls me. Hey, what am I supposed, I can't. So she ends up pulling this dog all the way up, taking him, putting him to sleep. I wasn't there,
Right.
like I felt horrible. He comes into this journey too. Same thing, just like I'm sorry. I apologize. I feel so bad. And he was like, it's okay. It's okay. You
Mm.
weren't there and we understand. So that was a weird thing. Like I was talking to these dogs
Yeah.
and obviously I had some unresolved stuff
Sure.
there
Yeah,
because
man.
I had other dogs that had died and they didn't come into this,
Right.
thing.
Wow.
Um, so
It's crazy.
yeah, I think that's about the last I can remember for that journey.
Yeah. And now,
Um,
is that one journey, and then do you do another one, or is that
so that
like,
was no, that was like 4 or 5 hours.
oh wow,
So that was like say a Saturday. I know I'm kind of condensing it, but
yeah,
that
of
was like a
course,
four, and it was like intense
yeah,
because again, they're playing the music, they're steering you with this music, like it's unbelievable. And they're coming in, they're checking on you, and
right,
they're you can feel them come by because the medicine man he blows like smoke on you too, so you can feel
uh-huh,
the heat. Um, but yeah, I think
extremely vivid, Rob.
oh yeah, extremely vivid. I mean, yeah, I mean, I remember it very clearly. I remember it. I mean, it was like, people will say, okay, that's drug induced, or man, it happened.
Right,
That freaking happened, and I felt that.
huh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was intense. It
And
was
so you go through
yeah,
that journey,
yeah.
and how do they wrap things there and
Okay.
get you coming back home?
Okay. So it was just that day we kind of all get up, right? From we all they kind of bring us all out about the same time. And you're just kind of looking at everybody, just going, whoa,
Yeah,
what the heck? And so we all kind of, there's a pool there. So we all kind of jump in the pool and, you're trying to explain like what happened. And then
right,
they're like, oh, and you're like, yeah, I get it. And so um, that day you're just kind of, you're trying to figure out what the heck just happened.
right.
Right. That evening we debrief. Everybody kind of goes around, kind of shares. You know, a lot of this too is you have to let go. You have to surrender. You have to like really let yourself go, because if you don't, if you fight it, it's just not gonna work well.
Mm.
And so that's a thing that's really hard for law enforcement, is that we're trained, we never surrender, we never let
Yeah.
go, because if that
Right.
happens, you die, you don't go home, right?
Right.
So it's a real dichotomy of how we usually think.
Huh.
And, and
Yeah, of
so
course.
yeah, so but it's important to let go and to surrender, and for this to really really work. So debrief that night, everybody kind of goes around, and I've learned in this journey over the last 6 years that I feel much better now being vulnerable, be like just speaking like how I really feel.
Sure.
It just helps me tremendously. And when I say vulnerable, I'm not like, hey man, uh, if something strikes you in the middle of the supermarket, you should break down and cry type of thing. I'm saying like, just say how you feel. Like, and if like
Of
that works
course.
for me. That work, and
Right.
that wasn't how I used to be. Right. That
Okay.
wasn't. I was like, um, yeah, I wasn't like that at all. But I feel much better being like that now. So we debrief, tell you go through what you went through, or you tell what you went through, and then and you're pretty tired. I mean, you are really raw basically, because a lot of that time uh, you're crying,
It's
I mean,
exhausting.
you're living this. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I talked to my grandparents, I talked to my I talked to my dad, I talked to my mom a little bit. I didn't actually. I stepped back. My mom kept popping in and out too,
Yeah.
but every time I'd go towards her, she'd fucking vanish.
Hmm.
And so that was an interesting thing too, that I wasn't able to resolve. So again, you're pretty tired, eat dinner, go to bed, because the next day is going to be the toad.
Okay. And that's what was that um
DMT, 5-MeO. And so basically toad is the venom of a toad. They go into the Sonoran Desert. They scrape this venom off the toad. They put it onto a glass. It gets hard. Scrape it off, and you take a rip off of a crystal meth pipe because it goes in there.
hmm.
Which again, it's all of this stuff is like from where I came from to like me, you know, taking a rip off of a crystal meth pipe is a long,
Yeah, a
long
little
way.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little
yeah.
bit.
So the toad is the strongest hallucinogenic that there is, and so the mushrooms, I wasn't really afraid of what might happen because I'd done it a couple times as a young man.
Hmm.
I knew I wasn't gonna die. I knew I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I can do anything for 12 hours. I just always had that mindset. I
Yeah.
can do a lot of stuff. So, but this one was kind of like unknown for me. And so um this was for the next day. So this was one person at a time too, because they don't want you to be around a bunch of people, because people, they scream, they like try to get up and fight and do all kinds of stuff with the toe. You just never know.
Hmm.
So I volunteered to go first. Had to keep or make the scene safe for the firefighters, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So I'm in the morning. I'm just kind of sitting in the kitchen. I'm by myself, and they're prepping everything down on the patio again, the covered patio, and then they do the whole concha shell thing. Call you down.
Yeah.
So you go down. There's one bed. I'm sitting in front of it. The medicine man explains everything. Explains how he wants you to, inhale. Explains that they're going to do a countdown of once I've done the inhale, they're going to count down from 10 backwards, and by that time you should be out. Um, so I'm like, cool. They do another blessing of you, and this one is there's no real words that I can tell you how this was. But okay, so I basically, I'm looking at a crystal meth pipe, and they've put the toad in there. You blow out super hard, and then you try to rip this thing for about 20 seconds hard, just like,
Mm.
take a big rip off of it. Um, and I mean, Andrea puts her hand on my back, like, so that I don't just fall back.
Right.
And I mean, I think she said 10, and I was just boom out. And then immediately, I mean, just crazy lights, just unbelievable stuff. But more than anything, I had a feeling of bliss is the only thing I can describe it. And it was a feeling that um, unbelievable. I've never felt anything like it. And it wasn't like and I've never smoked crack, but it wasn't like this thing where I smoked, some sort of drug that I want to keep doing again and again and again because it felt so good. It was an, a feeling that everybody, needs to like get their shit together uh, towards each other, um, and just like love. I thought I was able to think about my wife, how much I loved her. Um, and so basically I was out for about 20, 30 minutes. But as far as the explanation, I can't tell you like, what it was.
Yeah.
It was just
Fair
unbelievable.
enough.
Unbelievable. Um, and then so but as I'm coming out, Andrea's right there. She's like right here. And I feel her put her hand on my heart. And she says, as I'm kind of coming up, and she says, the way that you're feeling right now, that this is how we're supposed to feel.
Hmm.
We get programmed with all kinds of stuff, and we get all kinds of stuff pushed on top of us. This is how we're supposed to feel. And so I was like, you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Wow.
Um, so it was like a complete reboot, right? Cleaned out my cache
Yeah.
of all the shit. And it was like that's my North Star, essentially. Like I know that I can't feel like that all the time. I can't feel like I felt with the psilocybin all the time, but I know that I've been there. And so that's what I'm always striving for.
Right.
Um, and so it really uh it changed my life. I mean, it
Wow.
really changed how I feel about things. And like I have a new set of eyes when I'm looking at things.
Hmm. That's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you started talking to me about all this, I went ahead and I went to the National Center for PTSD, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, and
Yeah.
I started looking, you know, at the MDMA and AT and all these things that they're experimenting with. They haven't green, they don't. It's not a go everywhere,
Right.
but like I'm listening to you, and you know this whole process releases that serotonin and dopamine. It elevates hormones and neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
Some of the benefits leads to greater social engagement, openness, empathy, receptiveness to positive, uh, and disclosure of emotional content.
Yeah.
Facilitates the release of oxytocin, which increases level of empathy and closeness while lowering your stress response.
Yeah.
Increase self-compassion.
All of it.
Reopen social reward learning and critical period cognitive flexibility, higher tolerance from when remembering unpleasant memories,
Yep.
um, uh, bolster fear extinction through improved hippocampi and medical prefrontal cortex activity, the thinking part of your brain. Um, and the note of all this is not habit forming. None of this is habit
No,
forming.
that's the exactly. So that's when I started researching it, that was like the like boom right up front. And as we were talking earlier, I think that's part of the issue with the pharmaceuticals. Like it's like this could be literally a one-time deal.
Right.
And then if you integrate correctly, you squeeze everything you can out of it, like you're good to go.
That in conjunction with following this guide with
Right.
incorporating positive things in your life.
Yes.
So the PAT, the psilocybin assisted therapy,
Yeah.
it remains a Schedule One drug.
Yeah.
As of February, I'm reading since February of 2024.
Yeah.
Um, Australia, Oregon, Colorado, and the Canadian state of Alberta have legalized psilocybin for medical purposes in supervised settings.
Yep.
They got a bunch, right? Similar bills, that goes on to say similar bills are currently underway in the states of California, Washington, Jersey, and Mass.
Hmm.
And the FDA's been reviewing the evidence for psilocybin assisted therapy for mental health treatment, which may lead to its legalization,
Hmm.
in all states, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But as you're saying, anytime, listen, the FDA, and I don't know anybody that trusts big government or any of these institutions has really had their head in the sand, especially since the COVID debacle, man.
Yeah.
When they just flat out lied to the American public for 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 the sole purpose of making money.
Sure.
Pushing a therapy that doesn't work.
Right.
Here's a therapy that does work. That
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
backwards day, man.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just the issues that. So if you're current, see, being retired comes with, you're a regular person, man,
Right.
and you
Yep.
you are allowed to do what any other law-abiding citizen can do.
Yep.
But when you're on the job, there's a host of restrictions that get put in place.
Yep.
And so these therapies are legal in certain states, or they're working their way. It's almost like this. It seems to me that this psilocybin assisted therapy or this toad therapy could keep you from hitting the wall. Like
Yeah.
this could be used as a preventative measure almost.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, why do we
Yeah.
have to wait till I'm sitting on the edge of the bed with the gun in my mouth to
Right.
get fucking help? Why can't this be something that, if we're experiencing all that negativity and all these areas, we talk about PTSD. Well, you know what mirrors PTSD? Depression.
Right. Right.
They're often misdiagnosed because
Yeah.
the symptoms are very similar. So
Yeah.
why the risk for somebody that's currently on the job to find and research and partake in these therapies,
Yeah.
in some areas it could still mean a loss of their job if
Right. Yeah.
it's disclosed that they did this. um
Exactly.
is You didn't have to worry about this, but have you heard of ways that some active duty folks are circumventing that so that they can get this therapy
The
and
only,
not get jammed up at work?
the only person that I've seen put themselves out there is this guy. He's a lieutenant in Massachusetts. His first name's Sarko, and I believe his last name's Gorgarian. He's also a psychotherapist. So he's
Okay.
a lieutenant. He got some sort of medical waiver to do it.
Okay.
Um, I have reached out to him to just, try to
Sure.
collaborate.
Yeah.
But I don't know a way. And that's part of why I'm doing this now, is
Yeah.
that I I can, right?
Right.
I can kind of like be a voice and be a name and a person for people that can't. You
Right.
know what I mean? And
Yeah, of
so
course.
I don't know the answer. But I want to keep trying to like figure out a way and push away because
Sure.
I'm, we talked about neuroplasticity. There's no doubt in my mind that my neuroplasticity was muscled over so hard, so much from the time, and basically with what happened with me was I came back, I started doing integration. I started meditating like really, I don't want to say really hard, but I started um, taking it way more serious.
Right.
Um, some of the, and I'm kind of bouncing around here, but when
All
I
right.
came back, my wife was like, "You're way different.
Mm.
You are, you know."
Those
I
anxiety issues.
Well, I mean, I was on edge. I was always on edge. I was always going. And I came back very relaxed. And here's a side note too: is that no desire to drink alcohol, no desire to do any more THC. And this wasn't something that I was planning. That was not an intention. But I was like, I don't feel like drinking. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not saying I'm not going to drink ever again, or I'm not saying I'm not going to do an edible ever again. But what I am saying is that I have no desire. And I think that what I realized was that I was masking, um, my anger, my anxiety with those things. And so now that I'm back and I realize that, and I feel so much better. I don't really need that. And so it was
It's
really,
unnecessary.
yeah, it's a really kind of cool um, side note that happened. And I don't know if, obviously not everybody is going to feel like that, but for me it was. So with her though, she was, kind of like, who kind of almost who is this guy? Um, and because we have been through, like everybody, a lot of stuff together, and we go through it together, right? If you've been married for 20 plus years, you've been through a lot of shit. You've been through
Absolutely.
financial stuff, you've been through kids, you've been through all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
And we've always been through that together. I went through this by myself. So when I came back, she kind of felt almost left behind. And I also came back with this, hey, I'm not going to continue um, the same path that I was going down. And that means like patterns of fighting with her,
Mm.
right? I'm not going to, I'm not, I'm not going to do it. I can tell I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to be a better human being.
Right. But she wasn't ready for that. Right. Because we have patterns. Like I
Right.
have
Right.
patterns with her. She has patterns with me. If I do this, it triggers something. And I'll give you a real quick example is 5 days after I got back, we had a planned trip to Pismo Beach where we go every year and meet people and meet a bunch of other cops down there and, around the fire, drinking beers, telling stories, all that shit. So when we RV, inevitably packing up, getting ready. It's always super stressful. We always get into a fight. And so I told her, I go, hey, you know what? I go, let's not do that this time. Like we've taken 60 plus travel trailer or RV trips, and it's always been like that. And I said, I'm not gonna do that. Now, I don't know what you're gonna do, but I'm not doing that. And I just didn't do it. But she was getting pissed, but I wasn't doing anything. So she was just trying to like, what is going on with this guy? And it was almost like she didn't want to get out of that pattern, if that makes sense.
Well, it was probably in a very weird way comfortable and familiar.
Right. Exactly. It was burnt into her neuroplasticity. And so that was kind of a beginning of, for us, she was like, hey, I need some help with this because I feel like you're here and I'm here. So then another cool thing with the S.I.R.E.N project is they have a support group for the spouses.
Mm.
And so she reached back out to them and just said, hey, I am struggling with this new dude here.
New guy. Yeah. New.
Right. What can I do? So they immediately, reached back out to her, got her resources. And so
Wow.
that was, what's that?
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, it was
That they were
phenomenal.
there, that they could provide that service for her.
Right. Exactly. Um, And then another part of this integration process was I still had these expectations for her and my son. When I came back, we had a dog that was another dog that was passing away. And so she had gone down to some friends where we used to live for the weekend because it was her birthday. And she had called me on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. So she was down Friday, Saturday. The dog was dying. And she called and I was like, hey, when do you plan on coming back? And she said, I don't know. I'm going to screw around here for a little while longer. And I said, you need to get your ass back here, you know, um, because in my mind, my old mind was, that's the right thing is that we're going to, take care of this dog together. The dog's dying. And because I had these super high expectations for her and my son still turned into a fight when she finally got back. And I was just like, hey, you basically, that's the right thing. The right thing is you come back and we do this together. But the next day I thought about, I meditated, I thought about it, and I thought, why do I have these such high expectations? Why am I doing this still to them? And then I started researching, and I had never done this before. This is, I'm gonna sound like a dipshit for not, thinking about this, but my mom left when I was 7. From that point forward, I basically just started muscling over anything that had to do with like an abandonment issue. Like it just from that point forward, I just muscled over it. And one of the some of the biggest things with abandonment issues is the people that you're married to that love you. You set these high expectations because basically you're setting this up for them to leave too.
Hmm.
And so I would have never, ever thought about that without going to this retreat. I would have never like been, you know what? I wonder if that's what it is.
Do some investigating.
Yeah, as like straightforward and like common sense as that is, I would have never done it. And then I had to make the decision. Well, now I've got to go to my wife and explain to her that for the last 22 years, I've just been such a dick, and this is why. I
Right.
just figured this out. I'm sorry. So I go to her and I tell her, and she goes, well, yeah, I've known that since like the first month we've been together.
Hmm.
I just didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to open that wound up.
Hmm.
And then what ended up happening was she just started taking it on. Like, yeah, you know what? That I should have done that. That is the right thing. So she basically um, just kind of abandoned her own self and took that on when it was me pushing her away, pushing my son away. And because of that, what I think is that core abandonment issue. And John, I wouldn't have I couldn't have meditated, yoga, journaled, self-help, talked therapy enough. Even a talk therapist before this could have like talked to me about that. And I'd been like, oh, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. I
Yeah, no,
know
this is it changed the way your brain processed it.
right. Yeah. So it's been very good for us. Like, cause that could have gone either way. Like, because we both know people that they just get in this mindset and they start going, well, that's just how I am. Love it or leave it.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
that's never the solution, man. It's just the
No,
way I am.
right,
That
right,
that's it's an excuse that relieves you of the responsibility to change.
exactly. That's a great way to put it. And that was me.
Yeah.
That that,
Yeah.
that was
No,
that was me.
it's beyond my
Um,
control. Apparently
right,
it's not, man.
right,
You gotta vote.
right.
You gotta say in it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome, bro.
yeah.
Hey, there was one last thing I wanted to mention because I think it ties in everything that you're saying. Um, when folks are listening to this, I want them to go out. I want them to Google the
Yeah.
sirenproject.org. I
Yep.
want them to start doing some research.
Hmm.
Um, and I want them being their own wellness advocate.
Yeah.
and trying to figure, because the other, oh, this is just the way it is. No, like, it
No.
doesn't have to be your life.
No.
I'm not saying that you doing some psilocybin down in Mexico is going to solve all your problems.
Hmm.
That's not, nothing's that easy. But
No.
there's a track record here of
Yeah.
success
Yeah.
for people that are serious in addressing their shit.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I and just again, so I'll let people know I'm reading this. The preliminary research demonstrates that psychedelics can increase neuroplasticity in the brain, which refers to the brain's ability to change, and reorganize itself. Um, and this doesn't happen while you're there. There's
Right.
it, it it's an ongoing effect.
Right.
Um, which leaves people describing a feeling of more open to change and less encumbered by their old thought patterns, self beliefs, and negative habits, fears, doubts, and other hindrances in their life. So
Yeah.
it's like it's not completely wiping the slate clean, but it's taken out all the toxicity
Right.
that's been present, and
Yeah.
it's allowing you to reformulate some neural pathways that are positive,
Right.
that help you thrive,
Right. Straight up. Yep.
right?
That's the
um
bottom line.
it's just, and so, you know what Rob and I aren't saying that this isn't a cure-all, man, but there's certainly tons of evidence to suggest that we need to be looking at this not only for our veteran community but our first responder community, because we know, uh, in speaking with Dr. Pamela S.I.R.E.N in a previous podcast, we're resilient, man. We take the hits, we keep getting back up.
Yep.
So our issues aren't so much of a lack of resiliency, but resiliency can only take you so far. If the brain and the neural pathways aren't established, no amount of resiliency is going to heal you. And
Right.
so we've got to take this um, holistic approach to health and wellness, which may involve incorporating some plant-based medicines into um, our wellness plan.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't, dude. This has been an amazing conversation, bro. I really appreciate you sharing. Like I said, I've never spoke with anybody who has undertaken this journey, and I'm so happy, one, that it's had the effects that, you didn't do it just for the hell of it. You were hoping that, with some intent and some restructuring and some setting some, I won't say expectations, but intentions, that this
Right.
worked out the way it has, and it's given you like this foundation to
Right.
continue to grow in a really positive way, man.
Right.
Um, do me a favor if you can, Rob. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah.
if you could leave the listener with some thoughts on this before we wrap, brother.
Wow. I would
Yeah, yeah, I
say
know. Easy ask, I know.
no, I would say that this might not be for everybody. And along with our um, physical health, um, we need to be self-reliant. We need to be the same with our mental health. And there's such a, stigma, especially with our business, with mental health. You don't want to have that jacket. But it's obvious that what they're doing now is not working. And if you look at the amount of suicides, it's been sticking right around 200 to 240 for several years.
That,
So,
that's just the law enforcement community.
right, I'm just
Never
talking law
never mind the
enforcement.
veteran community,
Right,
and those are the only ones that are captured by active duty. We're not tracking retired
right,
guys. We're not trying.
right.
it's we don't want to exaggerate the numbers. It's not an epidemic, but one's too many, man.
And yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than civilian population.
And the thing that's the kick. It's unnecessary.
Right. So whatever, is happening now, although they feel like, hey, we got, EAP and we got peer groups and what do you mean we're not doing anything? And I don't want to, downplay any of that stuff, but you do have to take it upon yourself, unfortunately, at this point, because you're not going to get that from your agency, to seek whatever tool you need to feel better, to be the best person you can be. And I think we all want that, right? I think we all want to be the best person we can be, because if we're that, we're the best husband, father, brother, sister, son, daughter,
Officer,
officer.
firefighter,
Absolutely right.
best,
All of it.
best everything. Yeah.
Right. And we get caught up in the everyday, and we get a lot of stuff piled on in law enforcement and first responders in general. And this is just something that I think is a great tool. I think it's a phenomenal tool, to help you basically clear out everything, and you can, the key though is also the after you're done, you got to keep going. You
Right.
have to keep going. That's what's really helped me.
It sounds like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, man, but it seems like these modalities, these therapies break the cycle of the
Yeah.
self-destruction, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I used to beat the shit out of myself, right?
Right.
So for whatever I did, I'd fucking chatter, whatever it was, beat the shit out of myself on that end. And then I'd be fucking anxious on this end, right? Like I would just, mine was chattering of goals, and I need to
Right.
do this, and then fuck, I shouldn't have done that. And I was never present, ever, ever.
Mm.
And I came back from that retreat, and I felt like I'm 175. I felt like I went down there weighing 380, and I came back at 175. Right? Like
Yeah.
I've never felt normal, and now I feel like I'm normal, feeling
Complete
normal.
shift, man. A complete
Yeah,
shift in
yeah. I mean,
perspective and everything.
yes, yeah, complete.
Hey,
Um,
if folks want to get in touch with you, Rob,
yeah.
what's a good way? I'm going to put some information in the show notes, but what's a good way? If is there you want them to reach out to me through the show to get in touch with you? Would that be
I mean,
easiest?
you can do that. I mean, I'm okay with my email. I'm okay if you want to. I'm on Facebook,
Okay.
Rob Poynter.
On Facebook's a good way to connect then.
Facebook. I'm on Instagram, which is at Rob RAWB _ zone ZONE.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep trying to press this and get the word out,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, I'm sure there are going to be guys and girls that have more questions and just would like your take on some things. So
absolutely.
I really appreciate you.
I'm happy to help, and it's therapeutic for me too, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like to talk to you, it's therapeutic. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you doing this, John, because
It's been my pleasure, man. There's just so much out there, so much information that there's no reason to suffer in silence.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Poynter. Rob, I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you too, bud.
And that is that, my friend.